Europe's defense spending has reached a historic high of €381 billion in 2025, marking a significant milestone for the continent's security posture. This figure, reported by the European Defence Agency, EDA, and echoed across EU institutions, represents an 11% increase from the €343 billion spent in 2024 and a substantial 63% rise compared to 2020 levels. Adjusted for constant 2024 prices, this pushes the collective expenditure of the 27 EU member states to approximately 2.1% of their combined GDP, surpassing the long-standing NATO guideline of 2% for the first time in recent records. The surge stems primarily from Russia's full-scale invasion of Ukraine in 2022, which shattered post-Cold War assumptions about European security. For decades, many European nations had reduced military budgets, relying heavily on US leadership within NATO and enjoying a peace dividend. The war exposed vulnerabilities, including depleted stockpiles, outdated equipment, and overdependence on American support. Nations responded with urgency, boosting procurement of ammunition, air defense systems, tanks, and advanced technologies. In 2024 alone, defense investment hit a record €106 billion, with equipment procurement jumping 39% year-on-year. Projections for 2025 show investment nearing €130 billion, driven by major deals in missiles, fighter jets, submarines, and cyber capabilities. Key drivers include frontline states like Poland, which spends over 4% of GDP and leads in artillery and armored vehicle acquisitions. Germany, the largest absolute spender at around €90 billion in recent years, activated a €100 billion special fund post-2022 and relaxed constitutional debt rules to sustain high levels. France maintains strong commitments to nuclear deterrence and expeditionary forces, while Nordic and Baltic countries prioritize air defense and rapid response units amid heightened Russian threats. Even traditionally restrained nations like Italy and Spain have accelerated spending to approach or meet 2%. This record arrives amid evolving NATO dynamics. At the 2025 summit in The Hague, allies agreed to a new long-term pledge, 3.5% of GDP for core defense needs by 2035, plus up to 1.5% for broader security tasks like infrastructure protection, cyber resilience, and industrial base strengthening, potentially totaling 5%. For EU-NATO overlap, 23 countries, this could require an extra €254 billion annually, pushing totals towards €635 billion. Such ambitions reflect doubts about US reliability, especially with transatlantic tensions over burden sharing and emerging challenges like potential shifts in American commitments. The EU complements national efforts through targeted initiatives. The European Defence Fund supports joint research and development with billions allocated to collaborative projects. The Act in support of ammunition production addressed shortages exposed by Ukraine aid. The €150 billion Security Action for Europe, SAFE, loan instrument, launched in 2025, encourages common procurement with preferences for European and Ukrainian suppliers, aiming to reduce fragmentation. The Readiness 2030 white paper outlines pathways to mobilize up to €800 billion in additional spending by decade's end, including fiscal flexibility under EU rules and European Investment Bank involvement in dual-use technologies. Despite progress, challenges persist. European defense remains fragmented, 27 national markets lead to duplication, higher costs, and inefficiencies compared to centralized systems in the US, Russia, or China. The US spent over €845 billion in 2024, 3.1% of GDP, dwarfing Europe's combined total while achieving greater economies of scale. Russia's effective spending, adjusted for purchasing power, nears €234 billion with higher GDP share and centralized production. Europe's edge lies in advanced tech and alliances, but closing capability gaps requires deeper integration. Looking ahead, several trends will shape the future. First, sustained high spending seems locked in, fueled by ongoing Ukraine conflict, hybrid threats, and potential escalations elsewhere. Second, industrial ramp-up is accelerating. Firms like Rheinmetall, Thales, Leonardo, and BAE Systems report booming orders, with stocks surging in 2025. Third, emphasis on European sovereignty grows, prioritizing local production for critical items like munitions and drones to avoid supply vulnerabilities. Fourth, innovation in AI, autonomous systems, space, and cyber will demand more R&D, projected to reach €17 billion in 2025. Politically, debates intensify over funding sources. Some advocate activating fiscal escape clauses fully, while others warn of trade-offs with social spending or debt sustainability. Public support remains strong in Eastern Europe but varies westward, where economic pressures compete. Transatlantic relations will influence trajectories, stronger US engagement could ease burdens, but perceived withdrawals might accelerate EU autonomy efforts. In essence, €381 billion signals Europe's awakening to a more dangerous world. It moves the continent from complacency toward readiness, but true security demands not just money but smarter collaboration, innovation, and political resolve. The path forward involves balancing national priorities with collective strength, ensuring Europe can deter threats independently while contributing robustly to NATO. As geopolitical pressures mount in 2026 and beyond, this record may soon be eclipsed, but the real test lies in translating Euros into credible, interoperable capabilities that safeguard peace on the continent.